we all brought you here today because Faik and I are part of this Culture 360 Art Residency, and it's a virtual residency where someone from South Korea and someone from the ASEAN community pair up and do a online residency. And for us, we chose the topic on feeling grounded online. With the COVID pandemic putting everyone at home, the only way we can interact with people is through online community and spaces. Not to mention schools and works are also moved online. So we wanted to bring you guys here today and talk about just like how are you guys online? Like, do you guys feel okay? Do you guys want some more interactions? And just like pinpointing what kind of interactions in real life do you wish can we bring to virtual space? So before we all begin, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Okay. Okay, I'll start. Hi, my name is Darren. I knew from Brunei, where we're from, where he is. I currently live in Singapore.
Hi, my name is Baba. Mike has been a very goer of the creative scene in Brunei, and he has always been supportive of the shows I've been involved in. I appreciate that. And that's me from Brunei.
Hi, my name's Richard. I'm currently based out of Atlanta. We do backgrounds or I do a lot of community design and design consulting here in Atlanta outside of various things.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Can I get started?
Yeah, so I think for everyone, we're just kind of going through the questions. Like, it doesn't have to be like a long answer. So we're just kind of wrap this up, like not so long, like an hour or so. I don't know how long the discussion will be. But anyway, I think most of the questions are like focusing on like emotions, like emotional response. So we're kind of going to go through around 5 or 6 questions, depending how they go. So I think the first one, whenever you kind of want to respond, you can kind of just speak up. So I think the first one was like, could you share like any of your personal experiences? Like, how do you feel online? Like, do you feel connected online? And do you have like any anecdotes about this?
Sorry. Maybe we should go in order of who goes first. Cause someone please decide who goes first. Yeah.
Okay, so Darren, do you want to start?
Okay, fine, I'll start then. I feel like I definitely want more real life interaction after, what with the lockdown and everything. After lockdown was enacted here, I wasn't able to go back home to visit my parents and friends and everything. It sucks, especially because like my sister was gonna go off to university where she is right now, so I wasn't able to see her at all before she left. We're on the video call and everything, but it wasn't a real thing. I don't know how to say that, but physical interaction, like it's not, you can't replace it. Even though I could probably see like my parents and everything, but there's still this distant feeling, like the internet was a very long tunnel to the other side. That's what I just want to say. As good technology is nowadays, connecting everyone, but it's not the real thing. So for like real, I guess, intimate or meaningful, whatever interactions, that's the way to go. And I hope I can have that soon.
That's really interesting. if technology was really advanced, or it can just be anything you want it to, how can you make this less of a tunnel and more of a physical interaction? Do you have any ideas?
I guess, well, the internet brings us closer only by two senses, which is sight and sound. I suppose if technology could somehow have satisfy the other three remaining senses, then you would feel closer, I suppose. So, just having a hologram, I guess, wouldn't be enough because you wouldn't be able to touch the person or smell the person. So I'm just going through what are the five senses.
Taste.
But yeah, you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Baba?
In the beginning, it was kind of refreshing because I lived an hour away from everyone. So it kind of saves me driving, saves me 10 hours in a week from going to one place to another. But after a while, you do miss some things. Because what we're doing now, this is via camera, and we're just using our vision, like being said about the senses. You don't. In my case, I have to present my ideas, I have to present my creative findings, my research, and I would like to be there to, pick up on the little person movements of the person, figure out if they like it or not. Those are the kind of things. I'm not saying that psychoanalyze people on the go, but it's just for the benefit of whatever I'm presenting. And you can't really do that in front of the camera. We're already in front of the camera, and it's already minimized again to how many speakers there are. So that's what's missing for me. Just being in the room with the person, to read them, if I may, whether if I'm presenting it right to them, whether they have different personality traits that I have to approach differently. Yeah, those are the kind of things that I lose out on when I'm trying to present.
Right. Like the small details, right?
Yeah. Just little fidgets there when I say something that's triggering. That is very important because some of the stuff that I'm presenting is kind of provocative as well. So we're speaking to producers, executive producers, and we don't necessarily know what they feel. Like some people say there's an aura around people that you can read, but mumbo jumbo stuff like that. That's the kind of thing I miss.
It's really interesting. Okay. Last but not least.
Yeah. I think initially because I'm very much into community development stuff, so that we usually meet up in person at all times. And I think most business models I was a part of in some sense relied on a physical presence. I think when I worked at a design studio, it was like most of the work happened when you were not working. Right. So it's like, hey, you're saying stuff like offhandedly that leads to a conversation that leads to a conversation that leads to a conversation. So there's no that natural random conversation about like, hey, do you watch that movie? You don't say, hey, you watch that movie in a chat room. Like you have to be very intentional about the things you say, and it's not like you say it's for people unless you create a separate group for them. So there's no real bubbles you could do that with. So I think it's kind of crazy because in the last 8 months I started a company, and I think the first month we were all together to a point like, hey, we met each other physically, and then COVID hit. So after month one, we were dealing with complete virtual, and as founders, it's really difficult to have a lot of those harder conversations without having, it's weird. It's that handshake agreement that you have in person that you can't have digitally. You can't be like, hey man, it's completely off the record. Let's have this conversation. So it doesn't feel like everything's off the record, just because of I think the nature of the video camera. But I think see on the pro side, it did allow me to be more intentional about the people I did talk to. It allowed for different types of interactions, and I know like physically, it's really hard to get more connections than like 150 people in your community. But I think because you're not as limited or always thinking about the physical sense of things, that 150 is a moving target for me now. So the 150 shifts from like, what is my focus point for the day? So because of that, I actually got to reconnect with a lot of other people, a lot of old friends I haven't been talking to, just because everyone's busy with their lives. I'm doing my life. We're like probably 2 different time zones. So yeah, that's been really fun. So a lot of intentionality has been built into like contacting parents more regularly is a thought. Talking with friends that I haven't talked to in like years, connecting that on a rough surface. And yeah, I think intention is a constant thing.
Yeah.
I have to think about.
So just
random acts, random acts don't work that well.
Just to add on that, like, do you think you can kind of be a bit more like, because you talk about intention a lot online, but like, is it possible to like, sometimes in speech you kind of might mumble or you might like say the wrong thing, but it's like, that's not possible online, is it? Like, do you feel like you always have to say the right thing and else it'll be taken wrongly?
Yeah, I guess the question there is also on the frequency of it, right? So like for my team, like I have a team meeting 3 times a week, right? We try not to be at one point. This is something we tried to do. At one point, we had the video camera on all day, like from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All of our cameras are on constantly all day. So we kind of want to recreate that experience of like that offhanded thing. What we realized by doing that, we're always on, right? That physical mind of like, we're always on that conversation mode. And after like 4 days, it was completely draining. It's like, oh man, this is not the same. There's something like we use Discord sometimes for that similar mindset of just audio. Even that was also kind of overwhelming. So I think the moment those things are on, it tends to like just kick you into the second gear for a moment.
Okay.
I also I really agree with one thing you said about how everything is like, well, everything is just one chat box, you know. And when you say something, you say it to everyone, and then it's just like, because of that, everything is more intentional than it should be, because you're saying it to a whole bunch of people when in the real world it could be just like between you and me, or just like us and close friends. Like, you go through that second filter. In real life, you just think something, you can say it, but then online you have to think something and then type it, and typing it causes another layer of thinking, like, should I say this right now or something. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and like anyone, feel free to like give us your opinions, butt in anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how close do you feel with people online?
Darren, can
6.5.
6.5?
Yeah. Am I allowed a half? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 6.5.
What's your reasoning behind that?
Does
Does that fall back into the senses again?
Yeah, but also at the same time, like it's like what Richard says, you know, the way you interact online may not be exactly how you would in real life. So there's always like there's something holding you back. So let's say we meet someone new online, the chances of the relationship or the friendship progressing further would probably not be the same as if you were with that person in real life. Also, like online just feels sort of like temporary. When you chat with someone, the other person takes it like a message, not a conversation. I've seen it. Maybe I'll respond to it now or respond to it later. So yeah, it's more sort of like corresponding and not a conversation sometimes, I feel. So that's why I give it a 6.5.
What about instances that you feel closer? Like, are there any instances that you feel closer to people online, like some kind of technology, social media?
Yeah. So for me, I think existing friends, being far away from them. I suppose yeah. Some friends, you now have a lot of time to have a conversation with them online, and you talk about things that you never talked about before when you were face to face. So yeah, in those instances, for me, some existing friends, I've gotten to know them much better. So yeah, and also, but on the flip side, a lot of friends as well who are not, how do you say, not conducive to chatting with, people who never reply my texts, for example. Yeah, maybe there's a distance growing. So yeah.
Okay. Baba?
I would say 4. The reason behind that is because unnatural. If you get what I mean. There's an unnatural rhythm when it comes to being online, talking to people. It's always about passing the baton. It's not like if you're in a room, everyone's just overlapping each other. But if you're overlapping online, most of the time the microphone cannot pick it up, or the application doesn't filter it properly, and you don't feel like you can hear what everyone's talking about or laughing about the other corner of the call. So that's why I gave it a 4. There are times that we're joking and everyone's laughing out loud. You can't hear anything else after that as well. That's why I gave it a 4.
Yeah. I really loved how you talked about the overlapping, because it reminds me, of movies. The directors, they consciously write it so that they don't overlap. But then, that's the same case in real life, where that's not real. In real life, there's a lot of overlapping between people and conversations. That's great, yeah. Okay. Richard?
So connectedness, I would say, I feel like for me it's a 2-part answer. Like in a group setting, it's garbage. It's probably a 3 or a 4, because the software is not built for constant chatter. It's not built for those frequencies to just hit everything and be like, all right, everything's gonna be fine. It's just one loud noise. So it doesn't create impure situations, right? Technology is really good at filtering that out consistently, right? It's designed to filter it out. Somewhere you have low pass and high pass filters. If it's not within that range, it's gone, and the crazy range of 20 people talking is kicked out usually. So yeah, they do kick that out on purpose for efficiency reasons, right? But if it's a one-on-one, I've had a lot of great one-on-ones on video calls, and that really allows for I think one thing I got to do was I started a podcast that's completely virtual, and I usually talk to people that are not even within the States. So it's that goes deep, and I think I take it as a challenge and being very creative about things. So one thing is I give talks at universities or host workshops at universities, and they're like, hey, can we fit 60 people in your call? I'm like, no, please do not fit 60 people on my call. I'll send them a YouTube video, that'd be far more valuable than me talking to 40 blank screens and 10 people showing up. This is gonna be awful. Dude, please not do that. So there's a lot of intentionality around that. So yeah, and adapting to it. So it's been really interesting to see how people adapt. So I prefer small groups, and those small groups, if done well, it's a 4 or 5. like one-on-ones, if done well, could be a 10.
Hmm.
Obviously you can't have everything you want, but I think if I were to look at the core value prop, that one-on-one conversation I wanted, like focus things, that's really nice. So you're not competing with the environment on a one-on-one that you would normally. So a good case it could be a 1, it could be a horrible case it could be like 6. So like there's a range.
That really reminds me, like, back in the day when you'd be calling someone and just like you're lying on your bed, closing your eyes, and you kind of just you say more than you feel that you would have when you're in person because you're looking at them in person.
100%.
Yeah.
It feels like everyone's in a long distance relationship, and the question is, how hard are you going to try to keep this relationship alive?
Right.
And like the girlfriend or boyfriend will be rating, you talk to me X amount, so that's a 5 out of my book. And the other one's like you do even more. Like, how are you communicating even more? Like, I'm sending packages every week on top of like a message in a bottle. So like that's an 8. Or like I said, a hologram, like that's a 9, right? So you're sending levels to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That it kind of, so like if we were to create a better, social media or like a virtual space, do you think, based on what you said, do you think it would be better if each space had a purpose? Like, because on one-on-ones, it might be better to like maybe take out the video or put in the video or in groups and stuff. Wait, okay, so this is Akshita.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. I'm Akshita Bawa from India, New Delhi, and my undergrad background is in fashion technology, and I'll be joining ITP with Chloe this year.
So just a quick recap. This is for, I'm partnering with FIKE to do the online Culture 360 residency, and our project is talking about how people feel grounded in a virtual space. And we were just talking about sharing our personal experiences on how it felt to go online, and then rating from 1 to 10 how close they feel with people online.
Right.
So far. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you can like just share with us like how do you feel, like do you feel content with your interactions? Like if you go straight, we're gonna go straight into it, but like how content do you feel about your interactions online, or like do you wish for more?
Obviously, like it's more is better. Like human interaction is definitely better. So what we are having right now is like the classes are really nice, but the thing is like I things like coding and everything is okay, still okay. Like, but subjects like physical computing and which require a human help or a human support or a human interaction in terms of the teacher who teaches you certain things. This is supposed to be done this way. So those things are missing for sure, and you miss that in-person interaction. But yes, certain subjects are okay, like coding is okay, or design research, like I have a subject that is perfectly fine. I feel it can be online. But yet again, like subjects like that, it doesn't make sense doing it online.
But like, how do you feel about like on a personal level, like say in terms of like friendships, or like how does...
I met Chloe online. I haven't met her in person yet, and she's a good friend. But of course, yes, I feel like it's better to meet in person and you can hang out together, or go to places or talk and meet more people. It's the interactions right now and the friendship are very confined. And in terms of I feel there should be I'm definitely not comfortable continuing friendships online. Like you have to meet, you cannot, we are good friends, but like I would definitely at some point of time in my life want to meet, or we have this thing in mind, that we are going to meet after 4 months maybe. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's really interesting. And just putting it out there, what do you think is different when we meet? Like, what are the actions that will be different physically than online?
I mean, say we are working on a project together right now, the Design Expo. So when we are in person, we will be brainstorming together, working together, making prototype together. Like now it's like only one person can make a prototype wherever they are sitting, or like they are making it differently. But when we are together, we will work. The process of collaboration is so much different when we are in person. And like since childhood, we are trained to do that kind of collaboration, and suddenly the last 6 months it's like you do it on your own, even if you are together online. So I think I like the conventional way better for sure, like when you brainstorm together, because in my undergrad too, like we used to work together, make designs, iterations, and take everyone's opinion, and that works differently than working alone individually in different corners of the world, for sure.
And just on like talking about the brainstorming, like even now, this is a group discussion. If it were physical, we'd have these details, like we know who would want to talk, and it'll be much more natural to just like say stuff. But now it's just like, we only have an hour to talk, and we should do something important. Like it's brainstorming. It's like talking about this and important, right? Yeah.
Sorry.
Also, I mean, the one thing that is positive I feel about this is like you can jump into different Zoom calls, and be at different places in a minute's time, which isn't possible physically. Like I'm talking to you right now, and after this meeting ends, I have to talk to my friend who's in Brooklyn. So if I'm in person, I'd be able to do that. I cannot like meet Chloe in Korea and then go to Brooklyn. So, I mean, in terms of that, the physical distance has gone down for sure. And like, I feel when the orientation, like the college orientation and these kind of things were happening, so it is physically impossible to go to multiple events. But since it was online, I could do probably more events than I could if I were in person.
Like, do you think it has an effect?
That is the only positive I said.
All right, sorry. Like, I think I think a lot of people talk about like video call, and kind of like this idea that video calls take a lot more of your social battery. Like, do you feel that way? Like, if you take a lot of multiple calls in a day, do you feel like it runs out? Your social battery runs out?
It does, and at the end of the day, I genuinely feel mentally tired. Like, I just don't want to talk to anyone and just go to sleep, or just sit quiet for some time, because it's too much, like, at the end of the day. Plus, the time zone is killing, for sure. Like, Chloe is also experiencing that, and I'm, like, 9.5 hours ahead of New York, so my day starts at 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., and it ends at 8 a.m. in the morning, or 9 a.m. So it's that kind of schedule, which is very annoying, honestly.
Do you have that thought? Like, does anyone have this idea of like, in terms of like social battery, or this idea of like video calls taking up more kind of like mental or emotional energy? Like Baba, like.
Zoom calls, well, you can't really make an excuse that it's an hour's drive, I'll be late, because Zoom call, you can just sit in as long as you have internet connection. You can't miss it. I think to be able to juggle a few meetings in a day is very, and I agree with her, it's a struggle to keep on doing different projects, juggling different projects. You have to be always on your toes who you're talking to, and not present the wrong thing in the end. That's about, that is it. Yeah, it's mentally spending. Yeah, I agree with you. I never really thought of that. I never really thought that was the reason why I weren't really tired. But that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I agree with that. Shining some light.
Akshita, you said that you were able to go to different events, multiple events and everything.
Right.
Are you easily available? Like, are you easily, you know, kind of immersed in that environment? Because like it could be very studious or a classroom, and then it can be like a fun event, and then another classroom.
Right.
But your physical environment could be totally different.
Right. So I mean, my sister, she studies at University of Washington, so she's also back, and she's also studying at night. So it's difficult sometimes to get a quiet, alone place and sit and talk. So that one of the major problems, like staying in a family group of people, is that you don't get your own space for that. And also, I mean, like sometimes it, like, to gel, like Chloe said, like, okay, one is a study hour, and then you have this fun Thursday night out events happening at college, and then you have to switch between being in the mode of studying to just in the mode of enjoying and talking to more people or socializing. It's difficult to switch, definitely, and it takes a few minutes. Oh, okay, this is over and you're in a new space, because Zoom looks exactly like the same, and sometimes the people are also same, like from class to the event. So you have to, it takes a minute or so to, like, get in the mode of it, but it does, it is difficult. I mean, mentally you have to like tune yourself. Okay, not here, not, you have to go there now, like that. Yeah.
Okay. So Faik and I really thought that in real life we have spontaneity and randomness, but that's not totally the case online. Does anyone want to talk, or like, does anyone have any opinions or like anecdotes on that? How we can recreate something like that?
Darren?
I could touch on that.
Oh yeah, Richard. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if that works. So I think the idea of a immediate pivot does not happen well online.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also to the point like we've kind of been in this for a little bit. So like everyone's like, I got a calendar. If your call is not on my calendar, you have to wait 1 week before this calendar hits. But like, I think in real life that conversation usually happens like, hey, you want to do this random thing? I know you have this other thing in like 20 minutes. Like, yeah. Let me just call or like message this person. I'm gonna be missing the next thing for the next 3 hours. And I remember it's happening constantly, like random meetups or like the post-event feeling of like, I'm gonna wreck your schedule, but it's gonna be a good time moments. So that's harder to do, especially if you're getting on calls with people that have like a packed schedule in a normal basis. You can't coax them into like, hey, can you cancel your evening? Like, so this thing could go longer. Like that doesn't happen. I think there's a lot more variables around it. Yeah, like even this call has no chance of going past 1 hour to a point, right? So I think that's very indicative on how we see scheduling. Like I think in the real world we're more like loose with it. Like, hey, we'll go with the flow. I don't think there's a go with the flow with online things.
Yeah. So just to add on to that, the question is whether you lose any spontaneity online, and I agree. Yes, you do lose it. I think there's a stiffness when you're in front of a camera, regardless whether it's on Zoom or Teams or whatever. Just now, at the beginning, when we were doing our introductions, and I guess we all kind of just met each other for those who haven't met yet for the first time. And then Richard said that he's from Atlanta. And I just wanted to shout like "Go Falcons," which I totally would say in real life.
We're losing so much all the time.
I do follow a little bit. So yeah, I know, I get it, but it's okay. There'll be another season. Just hang the season and get the Heisman Trophy guy next year. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I mean, in real life, I would say that, but like online, yeah, I did say it because I don't know. Yeah.
Wait, so I just want to butt in. If we don't have a packed schedule, it should be really easy to meet up, right? You can just like call someone or create an invite link. Why do you think we don't do that? Like, why do you think it's so hard to meet up?
I think it's intention.
Intention.
It's so intentional, right? Like, I think there's also a joke like if you call me, I will not answer. Like that. There's a ton of those people. They're like, why would you call my phone? I'm like, that's your phone, man. They're like, nah, you text me and then say you're gonna be calling me. I'm like, what's the point of your phone? Oh my. So like that. There's been a lot of those. I've been notorious for just calling out of the blue. So I've had a lot of those conversations.
Who's that prophet to call someone?
But it's fine if you see them in person and then just want to talk with them. Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's like the classic. If you're on a college campus, there's always these people with flyers, and those people with flyers have the chance to hold you down for as long as they want, if you let them. I don't think that's possible in the digital setting, unless like that's the new way of doing things. So like, yeah, you can't be walking somewhere completely passively and get hailed down and have a conversation for an hour. It's a very rare thing to happen digitally.
Yeah, I think it's like quite easy to pass over a conversation. Like you can kind of just completely ignore a notification that somebody says hey, and kind of come back to it like 1-2 days later. And whereas conversation, yeah, you're right. Like you have somebody in your kind of like eye line where it might be hard to say no, and then you end up kind of going somewhere with them. I mean, you're friends, right? Like, but you end up like talking to them and going somewhere, and that's it. Like making a spontaneous plan. Yeah. Like, do you guys think that it's yeah?
Yeah. No, please go. I'll go after that. Yeah.
No, just go ahead.
I was just saying, I was in touch with my high school and undergrad friends over WhatsApp, like normally before the virus. And now it's like, and in the beginning it was fun, like we were all Zoom calling, just like our office calls and playing Among Us or something like that together. And now it's annoying to a point that I don't want to talk to them and I'm not responding to WhatsApp messages. Neither are they. I mean, it's like we were talking every day. Now it's like once a month. Like the frequency has gone down because it's just too much to take in, like the social interaction sometimes. Like we are like bored. Like we don't want to engage in those interactions, what we were doing in the beginning of the lockdown again. So I mean, that is one thing for sure. Yeah, and then like earlier it was better because then we used to talk once a week and it was like fruitful talk and we used to catch up on everybody's life. Now it's, and a lot of people have lost their job too, so like they don't want to, so there is so much negativity around that they just don't feel like talking. Like there is something going on in everybody's life that it doesn't make it possible the way it was.
We can either get rid of that negativity. Or
I mean, yeah, of course, yeah, you can always look at the positive, but like it's been, like India has been in lockdown since March 20th. So it has taken a toll on everybody. I haven't left my house in the last 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
I just went once for my US visa appointment, and that was it, and for 2 hours. But it's taking a toll on the mental health also. You want to go out. I haven't seen other than the five faces in my house, I haven't seen anybody else's face.
Oh wow!
I mean, if Zoom doesn't count.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. So yeah.
I just want to put out there, there's a lot of spaces online that kind of recreate the real life space. This can be sort of like Minecraft or RPG games, and just multiplayer RPG games, which is like Animal Crossing or MMORPGs like Final Fantasy or WoW. And people who were really into that said that they felt like they had interactions with people. They can visit them, they can interact with them. But the problem with that is that you either spend a majority of your time in that app to feel, that you're interacting with people, or to have the opportunity to interact with them, because you need to be in that space constantly for that spontaneous or that random chance encounter that someone else is in that similar space to interact with you. Do you guys have any opinions to that? Do we need to constantly be in the space, or just in this fictional world? What technology or space can you think of that can mix in real life? Sorry, yeah, just everything.
That's a very good question.
Okay. Yeah. As much as those spaces are rewarding, it just doesn't beat the rewarding feeling that you do something spontaneous when you go out with a friend, like before lockdown, and see how that thing unfolds. Or if you have a workshop and you have participants, you see how they develop within the short time of the workshop. Those are the kind of rewarding things that you would really cherish in a day. Because us human beings, we survive on human interaction. I guess that's why it feels so rewarding for us to see those from other people. But in games, yeah, there are some rewarding stuff as well. Some spaces, digital spaces, there are some rewarding elements as well, some achievements that you can unlock over time. That's the difference, though. Rewarding in online spaces and in real life spaces for me.
Anyone else?
I think, I'll just jump in on this one. I think those spaces are really nice temporarily. They're great. I feel like they're great holdover conversations. So they put you in a space where you're still getting connected in a, they call it the fireplace effect type of thing, where you have a fireplace to distract you away from it so you can have those conversations. So it's not about the game, it's about the fact that the game exists to distract you from thinking about directly to each other. So you're like, oh, let's talk about the game, and then the conversation gets very deep really quickly. So I know that happens quite a bit. So yeah, that's a very common effect. So I do see that being very helpful, but it's always something that's leading up to the main event of meeting up, right? So I think it's the classic long distance relationship thing of it's nice to call them every other day, right, and have that conversation for an hour or two, but you're always planning on meeting up. There's that thing to meet up to. That's the climax. But in the meantime, here's a great alternative for that. So it feels like I'm taking vitamin pills instead of eating the fruit.
Yeah.
It has similar benefits, but there's a clear advantage in one. That feels tangibly different. So I think that might be the comparison.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't think it's relevant. Like, it is relevant, but not for this question in particular. But like, I think if we were born in a COVID world and it existed for so many years, maybe it would have been different. I mean, I was thinking about it day before yesterday. Like, if we were trained since kids to, go on Zoom, study ABCD to the point we are here right now, I think it would have been different. You wouldn't feel that kind of anxiety or something like that. But because we've seen the outside world and we know how it is to like socialize, collaborate, go out, eat, drink. So those kind of things cannot happen once you are at home. And so now we know that we need to go back to normal as soon as possible. And I think that's why this year is taking a toll on everyone in some way or the other.
Great.
How are we doing for time, Chloe? Like, are we?
We have around like 7-ish minutes.
Yeah.
Please feel free to stay on if you want to, unless you have something else in your busy schedule. But yeah, do you have anything else to add on to, or any more questions to ask?
No, I think this idea of like whether if we grew up in this kind of environment, how it would be. Because I think there's a lot of times people kind of think this idea of like digital natives, like we're digital natives, we should know how to use kind of like social media. It's so natural to us. We can kind of go on Zoom calls, and it's so natural to us. But I think an example. It's just an example now of kind of the limitations of what we perceive as kind of like this digital native world, and kind of like what we are really kind of trying to replicate like the real world in a way, through our online spaces, like in terms of kind of like, like what Richard was talking about in terms of kind of like leaving, kind of like the video calls on, or just kind of like how we're still, like in a way it feels weird to feel new to this still. Like it's been a couple of months in the lockdown, but it still feels like how are we gonna like this is not right still. Like I think no matter how many hours we're on kind of like all these Zoom calls, it still feels off. And I think maybe like me and Chloe are trying to understand like why it feels off, and trying to get to kind of like that thing that like I'm sorry, I just picked this up, but like that thing that feels off, and kind of touch it and see it and look at it, but it's still not clear. Like I think what also gets us maybe is the idea that this is only temporary, and we'll be back to normal like after this. But I think at this point we don't know that this is temporary. Like it still feels like it could be the rest of the year, like, or like until next year. So I think that's another part of it. I don't know what else everyone feels about that.
I think because we have a comparison that Akshita.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like if we were to grow up in a world where we never experienced the warm embrace of others, it may be it may be a little different, but I feel like it will also affect like our social economical models, but also like our psychological, like how do you empathize with a screen, right? Like they talk about that a lot, and it's really interesting to see how, like, I used to do research in VR and AR for industrial design stuff. And like, there's always this thing missing, and like in visual design, they call it like the uncanny valley of like things are like it's super close, but the thing is, the closer you are, the more unsettling it feels. So like they're like that's why they say zombies are like the most weird feeling to humans. They're like it's close to you, but there's like that difference that makes it like everything's off, right? So like there's that sensory difference between what you expect and what you will be. So they're like, if you go for stylized games nowadays, they talk about this a lot. Stylized games tend to hold up very well, and like we don't point out anything like, oh, it's supposed to look like this. So like a very example, like a game is like Borderlands. It's supposed to look cartoonized, so it looks fine. But if you were to watch like The Rock, the CGI version of The Rock, you're like, there's something wrong with this. I can't tell. And they'll talk about like how different pore sizes affect the way you see the visual latex of the screen. And if it doesn't match up perfectly with the glistening of oil / light, you're like, he's fake. I'm like, what? Like, so close, but you're so far. So I think it's interesting to see like the closer we get to like live, the more unsettling things feel, because I think we have that perception of like, this is real. I know how you really look like. This is how you look like digitally. It may not match fully, right? Lighting is always not the same. You don't see the full body. I don't think anyone does a full body video conference. It's always the floating profile head.
Right.
So it's like, I know you as your profile head. I don't know how you dress, other than like pajamas. And so like, there's a lot of that personality that doesn't get transferred. So I think that's that fun aspect that we're trying to overcome.
Do you think it'll be more effective if we create a new social platform that doesn't really try to copy exactly of real life?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Like the VR space is filled with this. Is like they want to go as close to as reality as possible. Like yeah, VR is by definition will not get there, right? Like you could be super perfect, and you won't get there. So I think stylized ways might be another one. Like that's why people feel okay with like a Minecraft sand dude that's like blocks. Like, hey man, I know you as John. I'm like, your blocky character is John. But the moment like John actually appears, like that's not John. so it's like there's that comparison that does happen. So I do know it's that shift might be a little interesting on how we could approach it in a more unrealistic model. Have those conversations.
Like anything to wrap up on?
I can say something maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like the hope of getting back to normal is what is driving us right now. If I didn't have the hope that I would see all the people in person, everybody, and that would probably kill me mentally. That hope is keeping the sanity. And I also think that people also feel that, okay, 2020 would take away the virus too, but maybe it's here to stay forever, or at least 2-3 years, the next 2-3 years. But the hope that everything would go back to normal is, I think, what's driving all of us today.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. I really, vibe with like with the fact that we know everything is temporary, and like it's like we can't accept it, and like we're not finding new ways to accept it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Like Darren, like I know that I think Singapore is like under, is it under new restrictions or?
No, they lifted the restrictions further. For example, like if you work in an office, you can go back to your office 50% of what you used to be able to go back. So like a 5-day week, you can go back for 2.5 days now. And they say can, and they encourage employers to let employees work at home where possible. But I think employers, including my beloved boss, is making everyone go back.
Okay.
So what you see on the streets is basically back to like pre-COVID levels, honestly. It's just that everyone is wearing a mask, and aside from the mask and the QR code scanning and whatever, everyone's not giving space at the metro. Everyone is out in the shops and in the restaurants. Yeah. Well, restaurants still have their capacity limits. So
right.
Yeah, in Singapore, like the people are so ready to go. They're like, let's get back to normal. We're already in a normal government. Please let us loose. So yeah.
But like for you, that's like a mental burden lifted. Like you feel kind of hopeful. You feel kind of, like an overall
Yes,
national
yes,
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because yeah, exactly like what you said before, which is we sort of don't want to accept this as the permanent state. This is just temporary for us. Yeah, it's something that we have to live with. And then also like what Aksita said, we got that hope. We got that hope that drives us every day that it's gonna go back to normal, and I'm gonna get on a plane, or I'm gonna go to an event outdoors, or gig, or whatever. So yeah, I think that gives me hope, dude. Like I don't want to see people on Zoom forever. Yeah, I wanna not meet people in real life. So yeah.
All right. I feel like it's like a hopeful note to finish on.
Go vaccine makers.
It's been crazy. Well, Atlanta's kind of been open since March, so it's horrible. It's a garbage fire. It's like we're open, like it's peak capacity everywhere. I'm like, good God, we don't learn our lessons. It's really nice to hear Asian numbers. They're like, we have 8 cases today. And I'm like, man, we have like 4,000 in the city alone. And it caps up at 4,000 because we don't do more testing than that number. So like it just caps. So I'm like, I love seeing other cities doing very well. And I'm like, maybe I should just move there for a year and just stay there. It'd be a great time.
Anything else anyone wants to say?
Thank you for having us. Like, this is a great conversation. Y'all are great, and I learned a lot this morning or evening. It's now 8 o'clock
in the morning. Good way to wake up, right?
Yep.
Start your day.
Yep. It's either a 1-hour Zoom call or coffee. I'll take the Zoom call.
Zoom call for more Zoom calls.
Oh man, don't remind me.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming and talking with us. Thank you guys so much. And anything else?
Yeah, just as a note, we're gonna we've been recording the call, so I think we'll just kind of like also be sharing what we've learned from this for our project. So that would be on the Culture ASEF Instagram. So kind of like little clips, little notes. But I think there's a lot here that I think is insightful, and also kind of to help us with our residency. So like we have a post coming up Friday, and then the next 2 weeks, and something to write. I'll write up as well. So I think it's kind of like a good starting point for us, and like it kind of further. Like, I think we felt that, like, among ourselves, like me and Chloe, but I think it's kind of like, it further makes us kind of think that, like, I think everyone's kind of like around the world here, so it kind of makes me think that, like, it's something that a lot of us are going through, and I think, it'll definitely help us moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting,
Okay. Have a good day, morning, and night, everyone.
Oh, man.
All the very best with your residency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.